crap right now. I can tell at least a couple of y'all's minds are already wandering. I wonder why. Um, so, you can just like sit here and be bored, but your mind has to have something to do. And my question is, why is that? Why can't you just sit there? Why does your mind have to be stimulated at all times? We could just be sitting there looking at the floor, but your mind has to go on your little train of thought at some point in time. I mean, we've all experienced mind wandering. So my name is Julian, and with my TED Talk, I'm going to aim to try to answer some of those questions.
Yeah, I'm Debbie.
What is mind wandering? Mind wandering is caused by your brain's DMN, or default mode network, activating whenever tasks are boring, monotonous, or low demand. It can also be caused by low motivation, stress, fatigue, or anxiety. It's mostly just a shift from external tasks to internal thoughts. Since mind wandering is usually associated with like distractions and general unhelpfulness during work or school, but a lot of the times it can actually be a great way to help relieve that stress or to even solve problems that you've been focusing on. Next up, we have good versus negative, like positive versus negative mind wandering. So positive mind wandering, like I'll be calling it constructive daydreaming, is usually focused on the future or goal orienting or just natural positive things that you might want to be thinking of. It's kind of self-explanatory. While on the other side, rumination or negative mind wandering is usually focused on the anxious part that you might be stressed about or thinking about. I don't know, just it's the negative versus positive kind of thing. According to renowned psychologist Jonathan Smallwood and his 30 years of research, constructive daydreaming usually helps with everyday tasks and finding ways to solve your problems, which I'll talk about in a second. He also talks about how happy minds tend to ponder the future, while unhappy minds often wander into the past and focus more on negative thoughts. Next up is incubation. Next up is incubation theory. This is coined by, what's his name? Graham Willis. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Another psychologist who came up with this theory, which I do believe to be true. Incubation theory is basically, we've all had an instance of incubation theory happening in our lives, where you'll be working on something or thinking about something, and your brain will pause, like the conscious part of your brain will pause this work, letting your unconscious part work on this while you're doing other things, which is why sometimes you might be like struggling on a task or having problems, and then maybe later in the shower or while you're asleep, not really like while you're asleep, but like while you're laying in bed or not really doing anything, you might have like an aha moment. I'm sure that we've all had a moment like that, because I have. Actually, I've got an example for us right now. As you can see by the slides. No, you really can't. So an example in my life is back in 7th grade, somebody that didn't really like me very much, not particularly, asked me a rather embarrassing question, and I gave an embarrassing answer because I was in 7th grade. I didn't know any better. I won't tell you that question because that's not school appropriate. But a couple years later, actually, like 2.5 years later, I was literally sitting in the shower doing my ritual in the shower of just bathing and cleaning, like everybody. But I just randomly thought of a good answer to the question that he asked me out of nowhere. And the funny thing was, I'd actually forgotten what that question was. It took me a good half an hour to even remember what the answer was for. But we've all had an example that we could share in our lives of incubation theory. So that's why I believe this theory to be true. In like wrapping it up a little bit, what was I gonna say? I don't remember necessarily. My mind was wandering too much while I could say that again. That's mostly it, but I can't for the life of me remember what else I was gonna say, so I might as well just wrap it up here and say that's mostly all I have to say about mind wandering. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk.